Right, folks, today we're going to talk about how to set up a Google AdWords campaign. Now, there are a lot of different strategies on how to do this, so we're going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to use an example website and talk to you about how I would set it up if I were a restaurant and I wanted to drive more people to go to it through Google AdWords. Now, before I get really deep into it, a quick message from my sponsor. It's Weebly. And if you go to mymarketingchops.com/Weebly, they'll get you set up with a free website with a drag and drop builder. Now, I've been using Weebly for about 10 years now, and I also use WordPress. I don't just use Weebly anymore, but they're a great way to start out with a website or with a landing page that looks really great and probably as good or better than about half of the websites out there. So just go to mymarketingchops.com/Weebly. Alright, back to the video. So what we're going to do is set up a campaign for a restaurant. So I'm going to go to campaigns, and this is the new AdWords interface, and it's going to only be the new AdWords interface starting at the end of the year. So I'm just going to do everything here in this interface. Click the plus button. And now we pick the campaign type. Now there are 5 campaign types here: search, display, shopping, video, and universal app. And I'll go more into deep on the other types of campaigns on another video. For today we're just going to talk about search. Next time we'll talk about display, and we'll go on to talk about shopping, video, and universal app at another time. Really, search is the biggest usage for Google AdWords. It's to advertise directly on Google Search and Google Search Partners with text ads. So I'm going to click on that. AdWords wants you to pick a goal. I think just because they want to know what your goals are. And I think they customize the campaigns. If you click on a different goal, it's going to change the settings to something else. Most people want sales or leads, because you can measure these with how many phone calls you're getting or form fills on your website. Website traffic, I wouldn't usually pick that. If all you care about is traffic, then you're probably not thinking too deep into your sales funnel. So I usually click create a campaign without a goal because it gives me all the features available. And then I pick what results do you want to get from this campaign. And I think that's optional. You don't have to set one. Alright, so no goal for this campaign, and we put a campaign name. Let's just call it, let's say we're a restaurant and our name is Bob's Barbecue. In that case, it asks you what network. Since we put the campaign name in, now it asks what network. It says if we want, we can include Google Search Partners, or we can uncheck that. Google Search Partners are sites in the search network that partner with Google to show ads on their search results. So this can be something like ask.com or really any other web property that Google has purchased. It can also be a partner of Google who Google is allowing them to show their ads on their search network. I usually leave it on because it gives you the most traffic that you can. If for some reason you're doing this on behalf of a client who's very picky and only wants Google search, then you would uncheck that box. I'm going to leave it checked. Add display network. I don't ever do this in search. Google does want you to put display in because then that maximizes their inventory. They can spend more of your budget if you add the display network. And yeah, it's a lot of times relevant. They have some pretty good AI, so they can match that up with who they think is most relevant to your offering. But I usually like to set up a separate display campaign so I can track that and optimize it more than I can just here in the search campaign. So I put no. Locations. So it obviously depends on your target market. If you're a restaurant, it's probably just your city or a radius around your city. So you can enter another location right here, or you can just enter a location to target or exclude. I like to click advanced search because it gives me more options again. If I go to radius, And let's say the company that I'm trying to advertise for is in Salt Lake City. So I would say Salt Lake City, Utah. And let's say I wanted to target, get really narrow, do a 15-mile radius. Let's try that out and see. And we can see that it already added the 20-mile radius, so I can delete that. And this is probably more broad than I would do actually in Salt Lake City. If it was downtown, I would only target mostly around downtown, at least for a restaurant. People aren't usually going to travel that far for a restaurant unless it's something very spectacular. But just for the purposes of this, I'll leave it at 15 miles, and I'll click Save right here. And you can add more than one location if you'd like. But for now, I'll just add that one. Select languages. Let's see, we have people that we want to target to our restaurant who are speaking Spanish. We'll go ahead and add that. So we have English and Spanish. I think it's the best if you do that. Add whatever languages of your target market you can, because it gets you on more search channels. It gets more visitors to see your ads. Unless there's some reason you can't service them, or they aren't frequent to your type of restaurant, then you might consider leaving it off. Budget. This one's kind of tough. It obviously depends on how much of a budget as a restaurant you would have, or how much of a budget as a business owner you're willing to spend. It's calculated daily. The trick with daily budget is Google can spend up to double your budget in a day. And that's because they expect some days to maybe not spend any, or to spend very little. So to compensate for those days, it allows themselves to double the budget on days where there's high demand. Google does have a rule. They won't spend more than 30.4 times your daily budget in a given month, or at least they won't charge you that to your card. So what that means is 30.4 is the average number of days in a month, and whatever budget you have times 30.4 is pretty much your monthly budget. So to calculate a monthly budget, let's say we put $20 a day, and we times that by 30.4, the average number of days in a month. And this would be an average, about $608, so around a $600 budget basically, slightly over. And the thing to remember about this is every month has a different number of days pretty much, or at least most months do. To get 100% accurate, you'd have to actually divide it by, if you're going for a June budget, you'd have to take 30 times the 20, it'd be $600 a day. For example, if it was February, you'd have 28 times 20, and it's $560. So you can get really exact if you want to go in and change it a lot. If you don't, you can just average it and let it set pretty close there at the 608 per month or so. So $20 per day. Delivery method. This I don't recommend you mess with unless you're not getting very many clicks. So you want to run the campaign first at standard. If it doesn't get very much traffic, for some reason you feel like showing the ads as quickly as possible is going to be better for your company. Or maybe you're setting up ads just during dinner hours, maybe 4 to 7 p.m. or 11 to 2 for lunch hour. In that case, you might want to do accelerated delivery, but usually you just leave it standard and test it and see how that does. What do you want to focus on? You can't put conversions or conversion value unless you have that set up already. So you start out, just put clicks, and you have a cost per click, maximum CPC, cost per click, bid limit. And it says optional. It's because Google would love to have a blank check from you to spend whatever they want per click, obviously. But I recommend putting a cap on it. You might not know what your cap would be. And you can get into that with doing some research. I'll go into some research on at another time. Usually, if I have no clue what to bid, then I might put in $1 and just see where that gets me. Google will kind of tell you how you're doing for your first page bids after you set it up anyway. There's also bid strategies. This is a little more advanced. Well, it can be less advanced. If you create a bid strategy, basically what you're doing is a maximized click strategy. There's a whole bunch of other ones. This again is leaving it up to Google's AI to bid for you. So if you want them to decide how much you spend per click, you might try this. You know, if it doesn't really matter to you how much and you just want traffic and you don't want to spend time bidding, you might go to maximize clicks. If you've got conversions set up, you go to maximize conversions. Search page location, that's for the vanity clients. For some reason or another, they really just want to show up at the top or above some other competitor of theirs. This can get really dangerous. You can, especially if your competitor targets you and you target them, you can end up in a bidding war and basically spending a lot per click. So you always add a bidding threshold if you do search page location and keep an eye on it. Same thing with outranking share. Search page location is to be in a particular position on the page. Outranking share is to just always be above a certain website. Enhanced CPC is manual cost per click, except giving Google a chance to change your bid if they think it might be more likely that you'll get a conversion from that click. So it can help results. I'm sure it can help Google get paid more as well. So it's just up to what you want to use. Target CPA is, I want to just set a bid on how much per customer that I'll pay. And Google will tell me what's a good bid. You can't use this unless you have at least 15 conversions in the last 30 days. Return on ad spend, same thing. You need to have conversion tracking and value tracking so it can figure out what conversions are worth to you and calculate a return on your ad spend. So that's a little bit more advanced. So I'm just going to leave it on manual. Start and end dates. If you only want your campaign to run a certain amount of time, that's when you mess with that. Audiences, you might add a remarketing audience or do something with audiences later on if you want. Site links, these are great to set up right now because then you don't have to worry about them later. So a site link might be, press new site link. Maybe you're running a special and it's, maybe it's a senior discount. And you can add a description if you have more information than this. Maybe you say something like, 55 plus gets 20% off or something. And then you put another description line if you want. You can put up to 35 characters per description line and 25 for the title. You have to put a URL, so maybe it's just bobsbbq.com/senior-discount. That's assuming you have a landing page set up. And then you go ahead and click save. I'm not going to save any ads here because I don't want them to get disapproved. That's not a real URL. So I'll press cancel instead of save. When you do site links, it's best to have, it says at least 2. Really, if you have 3 or 4, it's better, or even more than that. Best practice used to be 4, so they've recently changed that to say at least 2 site links. Call out extensions. These are like fancy bullet points you can add to your ads. If you want to see an example of this, let's say we're going to search for a barbecue restaurant in Salt Lake City. And we can see the results here. I actually don't see anyone who's advertising in Salt Lake for barbecue restaurants, so it's probably a good opportunity for whoever wants to get all those clicks. But let's say I was going to type in something like barbecue in Los Angeles, California. Again, nobody's advertising, so this could be a really good opportunity for people to advertise for the restaurants. Let me try a different niche. Let me try software for engineer companies. So that's got to have some ads. Okay, so we see there's 4 ads here. I want to show you a call out extension. And so that's what's right here. 500 plus categories, latest industry research, 325,000 user reviews, trusted by millions. This is all call out extensions because they're like little bullet points. There's little bullets in between them. Another extension type I'm going to mention while we're here is structured snippets. And this is types. These are another thing you can add later on within the account. And then these blue ones right here, these are site links. So it doesn't always show with the description. Some people don't write descriptions. It's best if you do, because it might show them with the description. And again, I can see call out extensions on this ad right here. So that's what that is. You see you have your headline and your second headline, and you have your description, and then you have your ad extensions that go usually under it. Not everyone writes ad extensions, not every time. Google doesn't always show them every time either. All right. So if I was going to add a call out extension, I might say, maybe I have a gluten-free menu or a gluten-free option. That might be a call out. Or maybe there's some advanced options here too. If you only want them to show on mobile devices, or if you have start and end dates or times that you want them to run, you could say things like maybe online ordering, or get delivery with GrubDash. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to use an actual company's name here, but there might be some opportunities to add some other features or call out extensions, bullet points here, and then you click save when you have it ready for each one. Again, I would probably add, it says at least 2, I'd probably add 3 or 4. We saw some of those had more than 3 or 4, around 3 or 4 on just one ad themselves. Call extensions, these are great, especially if you're a restaurant. You want people to call you to talk about seating, to talk about maybe a carry out order. Most people are going to call, or they're just going to come right into your restaurant if you're running a restaurant. So this is a really good thing to do. You press plus, new call extension. Alright, so I'll show you call extensions at another point because it wants me to accept some terms, but it's not letting me yet. So I'll click save and continue. Alright, now that we've created the campaigns, we need to set up ad groups. So to do this, we create an ad group name. I like to do this later on, so I'm going to just cancel this part and leave, because I like to do this through the interface. So now we can go to see we're in the ad groups tab right here. So we press plus, and if we want our ad group to be named barbecue restaurant near me, maybe that's one of your ad groups. I like to name ad groups very closely to my keywords, and that's because if you have your ad group lining up with your keyword, lining up with your ad text, it helps your quality score. Default bid, I'm going to put $1, and for keywords I'm going to put so keywords, let's talk about those real fast. Keywords is what triggers your search. It's like a filter. It's not the actual word that your customers are going to enter most of the time. So if you put a keyword like barbecue restaurant near me. This is broad match. So if someone typed salon near me, it could still show up. So it's probably not a great idea to use broad match with such a particular term, because it'll trigger just on the smaller words. So what you can do is what's called a broad match modifier, a plus symbol. And if you put a plus symbol in front of each word that you're requiring, then what it'll do is it'll trigger only if barbecue and restaurant are present in the query. So it's basically like an if and only if this keyword is present, then this is a broad match keyword and other words to go with it. So it's just a way to make sure. You could put a plus symbol next to the near me if you wanted to make sure, absolutely sure they hit into those exact 4 words. But I found if the most important words are modified, that can work just as fine. So broad and broad modified, those are the first 2 match types I'm going to talk about. Now, phrase match is a parenthesis symbol, so you might say barbecue, restaurant, near me. Same thing with exact match. Exact match, you use a flat bracket, barbecue, restaurant, near me. I don't know the fancy technical word for it, but it's right next to the P and backslash icons, or the brackets. Alright, so exact match will only show if that exact term is searched. Phrase match will show if anything is after this, like, for example, that suck, or this is why you want to monitor your negative keywords. So, maybe what is a good, they can enter anything before or after, but it has to have that phrase in it. This one can't have anything before or after it because it's exact match. So if we go along with those keywords, you can also get keyword ideas from entering a website or your product or service. You don't have to do that, it's just an option. But save and continue. Now we'll create ads. So let's say in our ads you have a final URL, so maybe something like bobsbarbecue.com. I'm not going to enter that in. I'm not going to save it because it's not a real URL. It might be somebody's website. I'm just thinking it off the top of my head. The headline might be the best barbecue in town. Try Bob's barbecue today. So I'm putting, what is it, as well as a call to action in the headline. There's a lot of different strategies for ad text. You essentially want someone to click on it or be interested enough to call you. The display path, you don't have to put something here. If you want to, you could put, best and barbecue. But really, I don't like using these unless it matches up exactly with what's on the landing page. So if you had a page that was /best barbecue, for example, I would want to use a display path. It supposedly helps your quality score if you add them. I just don't agree with it always because it shows something else than where they're actually going to go. If they're just going to go to the home page, then that's what I like to show people. Then the description here. So display path's optional. You might say dinner served from 4:30 to 9:30, something like that. Seniors get 20% off. And you might say something like, call ahead today. You're allowed 1 exclamation point per ad. AdWords has always been very picky about that. They don't want it to look too spammy. 1 exclamation point and only in the description. So that would get approved if it was the right URL for an actual website. Add URL options. This is more advanced things. You don't really need these unless you're doing more advanced things with your URLs. So you press done, and that would save it. I'm not going to at this point, but every ad group needs a minimum of 1 ad, but it's better to have 3 to 5 ads. That's what Google recommends right now, is to have 3 to 5 ads. So then we press save and continue when we're done creating all the ads that we want to create. I'm going to press cancel. After I create ads, so I have the ad group and I have the keywords in that ad group, and I would have the ads right here at this tab if I had created them. And I would go back to ad groups at this point, and I would create as many ad groups as possible that I could think of that would be keywords. So maybe barbecue restaurant nearby might be a different ad group, or barbecue restaurant just by itself with no other words. I might try great restaurants in town, great restaurants with a location type keyword. Really anything that someone might be searching, you can create an ad group, a set of keywords around, and then a set of ads. If you're going to use the same ads over and over, you can just go into your ads and extensions and you'll be able to copy and paste them into each one. Now for ad extensions, is trying to say do site links, call outs, call extensions. So I press create call extension. Here's how I'd add my phone number to the ads. So I'd put create new, enter the phone number. I usually do campaign. You can do account if you want the phone number to go on every ad in the account. Call reporting is going to change your phone number to a different phone number that forwards to your phone number so that Google can track it. I recommend it because you can track when people are calling your phone number. If you don't want that for some reason, you can click it off. But if it's important to measure results, it's nice to have call tracking and the count conversions as calls from ads. So then you press save once you have the phone number in. And once you have all the ad groups, you have keywords and ads in each ad group. You'd have extensions, all your settings set up properly. We pretty much already did everything we were going to do with that I would do starting out with settings. The one thing I might check is in the additional settings. Location options. I like to only target people in my location, in my targeted location. Otherwise, someone in another country who shows interest in the city that you're advertising for might see the ads, and you don't really want to waste the budget that way. So press save. You can go ahead and comment on my post for this video at mymarketingchops.com, or feel free to comment on the video as well. And let me know of any other questions you might have. I'm going to go more deep into campaign optimization and into the rest of the settings in AdWords, as well as covering AdWords editor at another point. But for this video, thanks for watching.